Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic Hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook. I'm here to talk to you about the latest episode of my adventures with Superman. It was called Kiss Kiss Fallen Portal. And as it starts, Clark takes Jimmy and Lois to the cornfield where the weird Kryptonian stuff is, and they fart around with that for a couple minutes. Clark then apologized to Lois for not coming clean originally, and she says, "It's okay, let's start over." So they pretend to introduce each other to each other, and Clark holds Lois and hovers with her before asking her on a proper date. While Clark is planning the perfect date for Lois, she's planning to gift him with information about his past that apparently she's going to try to gather. Just when Clark thinks he's got the perfect date planned and that he's going to have a nice Superman-free evening with Lois, Mr. Mxyzptlk shows up from the fifth dimension, saying that he's an interdimensional peacekeeper who needs Superman's help. When Clark denies that he's Superman, Mxyzptlk tells him that Clark Kent is Superman in every dimension, and rapid fire turns him into different versions of Superman to demonstrate, including various cartoon Supermen from different shows that we've had, before telling him that the reason he needs his help is because Lois is in danger. Meanwhile, Lois is ambushed by various versions of herself from the League of Lois Lanes, which includes one Lois Lane and a female version of Jimmy, as well as various versions of herself. And they are the actual interdimensional peacekeeping force. And they explain to her that Mr. Mr. Mixie is actually a criminal. Mixie takes Superman to some kind of superhero museum that he wants to rob, which holds a number of interesting artifacts, including Dr. Fate's helmet and Stargirl's staff, as well as some type of digital recorder that Mixie is interested in. Superman tells him that he's not going to help him rob the museum and instead is going to turn him over to whatever authorities deal with him. But Mixie opens a portal and takes them both to yet a different Earth. Lois, who was never actually in danger, obviously, snoops around on the ship that she's on and does find a file on Superman, but it's been redacted. She then ends up getting held prisoner while the other Loises head out to use kryptonite weapons on Superman because they're afraid of his power and don't really feel comfortable giving him the benefit of the doubt while they apprehend Mixie, who actually steals the Lois's ship and meets our Lois, herself brandishing a kryptonite gun at him. Mixie takes Lois to Lois headquarters using a key card that he got from the digital recorder, which belonged to Lois Prime, whoever that is. And while she accesses the hidden Superman file there at headquarters, which is apparently some type of orb, Mixie goes to get his hat, the traditional hat that he always wears in all the comics and shows that he's ever been in. But in this case, once he puts it on, it turns into like a magical apparatus that gives him a third eye and which gives him back most of his powers. It had been locked up there, so he had to steal it. The Loises make it back to headquarters with Superman, and he immediately goes to Lois, and they have a cute little chat and end up smooching while the other Loises fight Mixie. Superman then joins the fight, and with Lois's help manages to get Mixie's hat away from him, after which the Loises apprehend him. Back in their own dimension, Clark and Lois smooch again and then go for coffee, after which Lois returns to her apartment and accesses the redacted file, which shows her a few different evil Superman from different dimensions going rogue on different metropolises. Somehow Mixie shows up there, even though he was supposed to be in jail, and explains to her that not every Superman is good, at which point she finds a kryptonite crystal hidden in the file orb. And that's where the episode ended. So I really liked this episode. I think actually it's the best one of the series so far. It had some real meat to it, where these other episodes were just kind of cutesy-wootsy and didn't have much to them. This had some real meat to it and a real plot that I thought was substantial. Mr. Mxyzptlk is a long-time Superman and DC villain. He's an imp from the fifth dimension, and he wreaks all kinds of havoc when he shows up, so it was great to see him. This is a different version of him. He was blue in this version, and he had on like a blue-ish costume, bluish-greenish costume. Normally he wears like orange, trimmed in like black or blue, and he wears this bowler hat. And he appears human, but this version didn't appear human and wore completely different clothes. So it was kind of weird. But they did incorporate the hat as a little bit of an Easter egg, which I thought was cool. I totally liked the different Lois Lanes That was very cool. They had distinct personalities, and the idea that there's a league of Lois Lanes that go around, solving crimes or whatever, or preventing catastrophes is very funny. I don't actually know if that's a thing in the comics, but I like it. I think it's cool. And the different Loises that they had were funny. They even had, like I said, a different version of Jimmy, which was a woman. That was very funny. So I like that quite a bit. I also like that Clark and Lois's relationship is developing. I said a while back in one of my last two reviews of this show that it was developing quickly as compared to the comics and like the movies and other animated series and stuff. But I do like Lois and Clark as a couple. So as far as I'm concerned, the quicker they get to it, the better. And so they're doing that. And I think the characters are likable. So it's very cool to see them, get together. Feel a little bit bad for Jimmy though, because he's solo. Like, is there no love for Jimmy? Is there not a significant other for Jimmy they can write in there? I mean, I don't suppose they ever have, but I mean, come on now, let's do something about this. It's 2023. The only other note I would have is that in addition to the costume changes for Mixie, they also changed the method of defeating him, which has always been tricking him into saying his name backwards. And that makes him automatically get sent back to his own dimension where he can't wreak havoc in our dimension, but they didn't bring that up at all or mention it. So I don't know, maybe it's something they're going to do in a future episode because he is out of prison, as it were, and I don't think we're done with him. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting thing to leave out because it's just tradition. They always get him to say his name backwards. One criticism I have of the series so far is that I don't like this whole thing where Clark doesn't know about his past. He doesn't know, where he comes from. I mean, in this episode, Mixie mentions Krypton to him, and he'd never heard of it before. So I thought that was a little weird, and I think this whole thing where he is a mystery to himself is kind of weird. I don't really like it. I don't remember seeing that in any Superman films or series or anything in the past. So that's something that I wouldn't be doing if I were running this show. But I don't know, maybe in the end, it will be worth it to watch him go on this journey of discovery. Who knows? But, it led to moments like him being hit with the kryptonite weapon and not even realizing what was happening, which was very strange. So I don't know. We'll have to see where they go with that whole thing about how he doesn't know anything about his origins. But anyway, that's it. I'm going to get out of here. I'll be back to do a recap and review of the next episode once it airs. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life. Oh, you're right.